The topic given for today was professional excellence and emerging expectations in governance. It's a little formal, so I'll try to keep it more conversational. I'm really more of a practitioner. So I want to start the first part on the professional excellence side. I know there are many professional friends here, colleagues here. I am a chartered accountant. I was a chartered accountant. Not in practice for many years now, but a lot of company secretary friends here, professional friends. And I want to touch upon the fact that during the last 12 months, for the first time, I actually joined the board of 2 listed companies. And like I was mentioning to some of my friends, it really opened my eyes to the enormous role and responsibility which a company secretary carries in today's corporate governance world. So hats off to all of you for the amazing work which you do. Just want to start with that. So on the professional excellence side, I often use this quote which Mr. Subrata Bagchi, I'm sure many of you would have heard of him. He was a founder at a company called Mindtree Consulting. He's written a book called The Professional actually. So he defines the professional. I really love this quote. It's remained in my mind since the last 20 years. He says, what is a professional? He asks that question. And then the simple answer which he gives is that a professional is a person who can certify his or her own work. It's so elegant, so simple to make a statement like that, right? So, a professional is a person who needs no oversight. In the IT consulting concept, I used to share this with my colleagues at Sierra Atlantic, which was later acquired by Hitachi, that, in an industry where you have 30-40% people at that time who used to be involved in testing, if we all had that higher level of rigor, you could actually build things right the first time, right? So always do what you do the first time right. I think that's so important. So I love this definition by Subrata Bagchi. And I believe that even as a country, each one of us are citizens of this wonderful country, India. I'm a big India fan. I'm a believer in the future of our country. I think the world is coming together to recognize what potential we have. But one of the things I've always believed is that what holds us back as a country often is our cheerful acceptance of mediocrity. Sometimes having a pass percentage as 35% builds in us an acceptance that pass is 35%. It shouldn't be 35%. It should be 99%. I don't mean it in just the academic sense. I mean it in the rigor of what we do. I mean it in the attention to detail. I mean it in the quest for perfection. I really believe that India's growth trajectory can change its curve dramatically if all of us who are part of this fantastic country and who are complicit in this mediocrity, if we can all choose to do better, more, then we can really go to a different level altogether. So that's really one point I wanted to mention around professional excellence. I think as professionals, as entrepreneurs, as individuals, right? If we choose to do whatever we do better, if we undertake an approach, even as children, right? As elders, as parents, as grandparents, if we undertake an approach that whichever place you come to, as you are leaving, can you leave that place better than it was? At the least as it was. And I bring that concept again, it comes back to professional excellence, it comes back to a way of living. You imagine in a cricket stadium, there is a cricket match going on, and I still remember the whole Japanese culture. I believe this was during the Football World Cup, which happened last Football World Cup. There were a series of Japanese fans who would actually pick up the litter at the end of every football match, put it neatly together, and then leave the stadium. So 98% of the fans would do the littering, 2% of the fans who were Japanese would actually try to see how we can leave this place better than what it was. That's an element of professional excellence also. While on professional excellence, I'm also reminded, I was speaking to my friend Praveen about Mr. Warren Buffett, the investor, legendary investor. And this is an aspect again which applies to each one of us as professionals, as leaders, as entrepreneurs. He often warns, and it applies at the country level. I think the United States today as a country is probably going through this. He warns all of us about the risk of ABC, he likes to say. ABC stands for arrogance, bureaucracy, and complacency. As professionals, we have to ensure that not just us personally, but the companies or the institutions which we are a part of, we should never fall to any of these three aspects which can actually bring you down. And he talks about this in the context of the Dow Jones Index or any financial stock market indexes. He talks about how all these indices, which have some of the largest, the best, the smartest companies, turn over almost 60 to 80% every 10 to 20 years. The top companies come in, they grow, and then they fall. So there is a whole series of books, Larry Collins and the whole Good to Great and that series. So I thought I would bring that out in the whole reference to professionalism. I also like to look at, and I share this often, about the aspect of professionalism, again, about growth, personal growth, institutional growth, growth as a country, right? So, if you bring a certain rigor and an approach of excellence to what you do over a period, I am a big believer of the compounding effect. There is a compounding effect which we all understand, which is a pure financial compounding effect, but there is a compounding effect in everything we do. If you do what you do well, over a period, the compounding effect of that. Let's look at Raghu Babu's network, for example. I mean, we have known each other from 15 years, and I greatly admire, I think, the way he connects with people, and over a period, he has built such a positivity, such a professionalism. Whenever I get a chance, somebody asks me about any requirement which is around SimplyBiz's scope, I don't hesitate to refer people to it. So that's also an aspect of compounding which is so important. The last part on professional excellence I want to talk about before I move to governance is about reading. I'm passionate personally about reading. I've created time in my life. I use the word created time, where I have open space which allows me to read widely. I also happen to be a co-founder of a book club here in Hyderabad called Turn the Page. We read some really interesting, very diverse stuff. But my message as a professional to all my fellow professional colleagues and entrepreneurs and founders and youngsters who are here, read as much as you can. I think in today's world of social media and now AI actually as a co-pilot being there to summarize a 200-page book into a 2-page summary, we are all assuming that we are so busy that a 2-page summary is what we want to digest, right? But that's like fast food. I'm sure this is a very cliched reference. But you imagine a homemade meal, which is a full, South Indian thali with all the flavors and the joy, the magic of eating with your hands versus a fast food pizza which comes to you. I mean, there is no comparison. So, what I would like to say to all my professional friends and colleagues here, please read at least once in a month. Pick up one book. Read something which is outside your subject, outside your scope. It makes a huge difference. Okay? So I want to give you a glimpse of that. One of my favorite authors is Dr. Atul Gawande. He's an Indian origin surgeon. He works out of New York. He's an accomplished surgeon. He has written a series of 4 books. But on one aspect, he talks about coaching. You can find him on YouTube also. So he says something which applies to every professional. He talks about that there are 4 stages in the life of anybody who is aspiring for excellence. The first stage is what he calls the stage of unconscious incompetence. You start with unconscious incompetence. You know what you are not good at. From there you come to a state of conscious incompetence. Now you know what you are not good at. From conscious incompetence you go to conscious competence, which means now you have spent that effort and you have become really good at it. But the highest state, what Atul Gawande says, is the state of unconscious competence. Now whether it is Virat Kohli or it is Roger Federer or it is a musician or a Nobel Prize scientist, what lies behind each of their immense achievements is hours and hours, years and years of very mindful, rigorous practice. There is a continuous aspect of learning, applying, learning, looking to be better. So as professionals, I just wanted to mention that. I now, in the interest of time, quickly move on to the aspect of expectations and governance. Like I just touched upon, it's been about 12, 13 years since I came out of my corporate life, so a lot of time around me which I can use creatively. I spent a few years investing in startups, lovely experience. I mentor startups, as Raghu mentioned in my introduction. The last 12 months, like I said, joined 2 public companies now. And the whole aspect of governance, as I go deeper, I was telling some of the company secretary colleagues, I studied for the independent director exam. I seem to have an exemption, but I studied and I wrote the exam. I actually went through 40 hours of study material. And I just want to say that actually governance in every aspect is again something which, as a country, there is so much to gain at an individual level, at an institution level, goes all the way to the country level, right? So what is governance? Governance is about doing the right thing every time. Governance is about, in my view, I'm going away from the textbook description of governance. Governance, in my view, is about doing the right thing when nobody is watching you. In my mind, governance, today early morning, as I go 3 days a week to golf, I was headed to the golf course, and just about 1 kilometer before my golf course, there is a signal. So that signal, if it is red and if it is early morning, nobody stops for that signal, right? All of us as individuals, we have a tendency to cross signals if there is no police person around. If there is no disincentive for us to do the wrong thing, we are willing to do that. Again, the example we are setting for our youngsters, the example, there is the effect of compounding. The moment 2 people do this, another 10 people who come from behind will say, "Ino to gaya, hum bhi ja sakte hain. It's okay if it is red," right? So in my mind, governance is really about actually adopting, right? Immersing yourself in doing the right thing. And of course, there are so many elements of formal governance, right? Regulatory, the whole, whatever laws which determine how every entity should operate. And there is a whole logic attached to that. That is the way the world has evolved, and that is the way we all work as a civilization. If there were no governance, if there were no adherence to certain rules which are more formal and certain norms which are not written, but it's like a code of conduct, there would be anarchy, there would be civil unrest, right? So, all I want to mention on the governance side is that it's really about absorbing and following what is the right thing to do all the time, not needing to be looked at, to be studied, to be penalized and things like that, whether it is in taxation, whether it is in corporate governance. Actually, as professionals, I have been asked this question. I was at a CFO panel a couple of years back, and there were professionals who asked me this question, saying, sir, in family-run businesses, in early entrepreneurs, very often as professionals, we are pressured by some of the business owners, founders, to do things which we may not be professionally comfortable with, right? I really want to be able to say, I've spent 20 years in that role myself, right? So one thing I believe, and I want to address that, is that I think it is upon the professionals, whether you are the company secretary, CFO, CEO, whatever, it's upon you to be able to convince your founder, to work with them, to show them that if we follow everything right, the long-term rewards, the long-term valuation. I'll give you an example, right? I come from the period of very early IT industry. So in India, IT industry was the first time professionals who set up companies like Infosys and NIIT and Wipros and everything. Wipro, of course, Premji was an entrepreneur, but professionals became very rich by following corporate governance, by doing the right thing. The whole quality of financial disclosures, the quality of governance, the quality of people management, everything changed. And looking at that, a lot of traditional businesses also came on to that act. The Birlas, the Tatas, the Ambanis, etc., they also realized the value of professionals. They realized the value of ensuring that you don't do wrong and you realize that value. You look at the real estate sector, right? So in Bombay today, in most of the mature cities, there is no cash element now. When you go to buy property, people will take 100% check. So how did a sector like this, I believe even in Hyderabad, I'm told, I'm not often in the market, but I'm told that there are enough builders now who are willing to accept everything by check. So these are all good things to carry. So I just want to sort of end with that, with a small, again a tribute to the Japanese actually. So governance, like I was saying, is actually a way of life. There is a self-imposed aspect of doing the right thing, doing the moral thing always. So I go back to an anecdote I was reading about Japan when there was a tsunami and there was a Fukushima nuclear plant, water entered, and there was radiation risk and everything was in shambles. At that point of time, all supply chains got affected. And I was reading about this, right? Not just because I was part of Hitachi, I'm just, admiring this, that a series of Japanese customers would go to grocery stores, standing quietly in line. The Japanese are legendary for following all norms, right? Standing in line, each one of them would buy 1 day of provisions and come out of the line. And the second one would go buy 1 day of provision and come out. what would any rest of the world do, including possibly myself? I have money, I have a card, I would buy whatever is available, all the bread, all the milk, all the everything, not looking behind me to see how to be mindful and to leave that. I think that is the DNA of governance which we should all carry. So that's my quick sort of practitioner take on professional excellence and governance. I hope I'm within my time, Raghu, and I'm open to a little bit of Q&A if time allows that. Thank you so much. Again, wish you all the best, and I'm really happy to be here in this amazing audience. I have several friends here. My co-speaker, Dr. Raj, and several other senior friends are here. So thank you so much for being here. Pleasure.